My guest today has travelled a journey in liturgical music from his early days in primary school playing the flute in St Brigid in the Meadow to his current role as Director of Music at Clonard Monastery in Belfast. He's taken the yellow bus to Saturday morning schools of musicality and has performed in and produced Oklahoma as a first year in St Colmans and then as head of music in St Mary's High School in Downpatrick. He's inspired musicians and singers and provided opportunities for all to stretch and explore their musical capabilities. Lockdowns meant some activities have been halted and others have gone virtual. A musical conversation with Cathal Murphy.
Well, it's been incredibly difficult for everyone, but for musicians, it's been really difficult. Not being able to sing or rehearse in the same room as these people that you've been friends with and you've developed relationships with for so long, not being able to maybe be creative or have that creativity outlet has been difficult for lots of musicians. And then those of my friends, I'm lucky enough that I'm a music teacher, but I have lots of friends who work professionally in the industry and they've been really hit hard by the impact of COVID-19 and not being able to have the opportunities to perform or even rehearse. And now as we're coming out of lockdown, there's the opportunity for performance again, but some of these people haven't maybe rehearsed or performed together for many months. So that's challenging as well.
For you, you began music as a young age. Was there a musical tradition in your family?
There wasn't, well, all of my younger brother and my two older sisters all did music and we went to lessons and we were encouraged. But people always ask, is your mom musical or your dad musical or which side of the family does the music come from? But having teaching for so long, I've kind of learned that music doesn't really come from any side of the family. It's really about the environment that you're surrounded in. And I think that anyone has the potential to be musical if they're surrounded and given the right support. So whenever it came to the second year and third year in school, whenever you wanted to give up and you just thought, oh, I couldn't be bothered practicing anymore. Maybe you had the odd argument with your mum and dad who said, no, you must stick at it. I suppose when I look back now, I'm grateful that those arguments took place because mum and dad really knew the value of music and the difference that it would make in our lives. And indeed, that has come true.
When I was talking to Paddy O'Duvine, Paddy looked back at his primary school and the inspirational role that his primary school and teachers and his mum in his primary school had. Do you have a sort of musical connection back to primary school days?
Well, I went to St Patrick's out in the Meadow. My granny Riley lived in Derrybeg Drive, so it was really handy for me to walk home to her house in Derrybeg Drive every day. Starting off in primary school, I was really lucky. I had Mrs. Rafferty from Chestnut Grove in primary two and primary three, Angela. And I suppose that's really was my first introduction to music in class when we were all sitting playing the recorder together. Now, I'm not sure the noise was great, but or the sound was great. When I think back to it, I think poor Mrs. Rafferty having to listen to all of us, having listened to 30 lads out in the meadow playing the recorder. But yeah, so that was really my introduction. And then in primary four, primary five, I actually started playing the flute. And my first flute lesson was with an older pupil in the school because they didn't have any slots available with the SELB tutor at the time. So the older student in the school ended up happened to be a McCrory Hogan Cup winner eventually, and it was Declan Morgan,
Right.
uh, Ray's son. So
Uh-huh.
Declan probably doesn't actually remember that he played the flute, but he played quite well, and I got to return the thanks whenever ended up playing at his wedding. Uh, then whenever I moved on through school, I got to primary seven, and Paddy Maney was my teacher then. And at that stage, I had started playing in St Catherine's band. So Paddy actually sat down playing the tuba at the back of the band, and I was at the front of the band. But it was always Mr. Maney, and everything was kept very proper. But Paddy was very forward looking. He had an Apple Mac at the back of the classroom, and whenever confirmation or anything came along, he would have always written a flute part. for me that fitted in with a hymn or something like that. So it was great to get the opportunity to perform at such a young age at things like confirmations and different liturgies throughout the year and school assemblies.
Yeah, we'll look at your current role later on, but that sort of involvement in church and liturgical playing of music in church was obviously there from a young age.
Yeah. Well, it came from a very young age. In fact, I was actually Mary in the primary three nativity, so that was my introduction into performance in the church.
But when you were talking about St Patrick's and playing the recorder, were you part of a troupe that then would have walked from St Patrick's into the town hall and performed in the Feis and took part in Feis classes?
Yeah. So I can remember. I think it was competitor number 72 playing Bobby Shafto, the poor adjudicator. I don't know what he did for his sins to have to listen to 72 performances of Bobby Shafto's Gone to Sea. So yeah, that was I was one of the troupe that marched their way in from St Patrick's and into the town hall.
But it was exciting too, wasn't it? You know, you were going into a big theatre space and being on the stage. That was an exciting moment.
Yeah, it really was exciting, and because we were doing it from such a young age, it just became normal. You know that a lot of people might get up at whenever their first experience on stage, 15 and 16, and feel slightly nervous. But we had been doing that since we were in primary 3 or 4, so it was normal. We're immune to the effects of nerves at that stage. They kicked in at a much later stage.
And then when you went to the college, there's great music tradition there in the college. And did you get involved in the school shows at the college?
Well, whenever I was in first year, I watched your interview with Leo Reynolds
Yes,
recently, and Leo had talked about Oisin Kearney, the wonderful performance that Oisin Kearney gave, and it was mesmerizing. Now, if you were to look at the other side of that scale, from mesmerizing to not so great, Leo had her work cut out with me from the very start, because I made it into as a can dancer.
All right, there you go.
In Oklahoma. So my photo appears on the wall, but not as a footballer. It appears on the other side of the wall. First as a can dancer in Oklahoma, complete with fishnet tights and everything. And then I moved into the orchestra after that.
You escaped down into the pit.
I escaped it. Well, I think it was a lucky escape for the audience.
Or were you nudged into the pit?
I think that's may what have happened anyway.
And Declan Morgan then has his picture on the other side of the corridor with
Hogan. Yeah. So we're both on the wall.
Yeah, well, there you go. We see, the tradition continues. The tradition continues. The school choir and Miss Frame's choir in St Colmans has a great depth and has given an awful lot to musicality in the school down the years.
Yeah, well, that's one of the beauties about St Colmans. The success in examinations is matched by success outside of the examination room through sport and music and lots of drama, lots of other areas where it's so rich because of teachers who are inspirational, like Sinead. I was really lucky in my first year. I got to actually go to Paris, traveled over to Paris, and we went to Lebec, the monastery there, where brother Abbot Mark was living at the time before the monks actually came to Restrever.
All right, yeah.
So we had visited there, and we got to perform in the Irish College over in Paris as well. So it was a really great time. And then when you think back of the works that you got to perform whenever you were in the school, like Faurè's Cantique du Jean Racine, Faurè Requiem, I sang that as a soprano, and then later towards the end of my time at St Colmans, whenever my voice has changed as a tenor. So it was great to get exposed to those works.
And very challenging pieces.
Yeah, they were really, really challenging, really difficult, and that's what improved your musicianship, because you had all of a group of great musicians singing around you from a young age. So, and they were the people that you looked up to in school as well. So it really did challenge you, but it was so worth it whenever you got to be in a performance like Foray's Requiem, and you could see the impact that it had on the choir, the musicians, and indeed the audience. So it was really my first insight into performing at that level.
On a Saturday morning, we'd be getting the bus to the football matches. There was another pickup at the top of the avenue on the Armagh Road, the yellow bus. And
Yeah.
we would be boarding the yellow bus and heading to Portadown. Were you ever journeying on the yellow bus?
Yeah, so I was in the Saturday morning orchestra. Started off there in the band, in the youth band, and then went across to the senior band, and then into the Saturday morning orchestra. So it's great getting to play music with all of your friends, and at that stage, we went to an all boys school, obviously at St Colmans, but it was your opportunity to meet girls from different schools. So that had its attraction as well, whenever I was younger.
But I always think there must be a story to be done about that bus journey over the generations. The number of people who got that bus, who went on to the orchestras, to the different bands that were practicing on a Saturday morning, and then went on into the business and careers in music. There really is the journey of that bus must have hundreds of tales to tell.
Yeah, whenever you think about it, the people that were on the bus, Matthew Benson was on the bus, who's now playing Jerry Morgan,
Yeah.
two guys that have very good pop careers as well as recording artists. So, and that's just, there are lots of people around you who have gone on to work in the music industry.
And what stage did you think really during your time at the college then that third level education was going to be for you another part of your musical journey?
But whenever I was around fifth year, the choices came up for picking your A-level subjects, and music was my first choice. Music was always my first choice for everything. So it was going to be music, and music, Irish, and religion were my three A-levels. But I spent most of my time around the music whenever I was free and things like that. I would have spent that time practicing. Indeed, I think sometimes maybe I've meant to be in an Irish class that was spent practicing as well. So yeah, music was what I enjoyed, and Sinead obviously was to have a teacher like that, who is a fantastic musician and has inspired a huge amount of pupils to continue on their musical journey, and even those that didn't continue in a musical career still have a great appreciation of music. When I think about my younger brother as well, he didn't go down. He studied law, but he still has a great appreciation and a passion for music, and that all came through St Colmans.
Was he in Les Miserables?
He was, yeah.
Was it Javert?
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
stands out, memorable performance.
Oh yeah. He had a much more positive experience on stage than me.
Well, listen, now where you are, went through music at University of Ulster, and you're now sitting with two very impressive titles, probably equally balanced on your shoulders, as head of music in St Mary's in Downpatrick and director of music in Clonard. Those both in their ways contributing music back into the life of the community, into the life of education. How do you balance those two roles?
Well, I think that the roles cross over quite a lot, in that music is at the center of them. Getting people to experience music, enjoying music, having a passion for music, they're all the same, and that transitions no matter who is in front of you, whether they're 8 years of age or 80 years of age. So they do cross over quite well. If I think about it, in school, if girls are who are 11 to 18, all ability, and it's great because some of, the ones who pick music or who sing in the choir, they're really talented, and they work really hard. So you can get an awful lot out of that as a teacher. And then when I go into Clonard Monastery, well, not at the minute because we haven't been able to have a rehearsal in over a year. But when I go into Clonard, there are people there who are equally passionate about music, who have been singing for many years and who add so much to the spiritual life of Clonard. So they balance out extremely well. One, in school, you're trying to maintain the whole mercy ethos through music. And then there's a religious aspect to musical life in Clonard. They're both very important. Those are important aspects within everyone's life. The spirituality is extremely important. So they cross over quite well.
Does in school then, if you produced school shows through the music department, has Oklahoma been one of them?
Oklahoma was actually my first show, so it was in school.
You might have blacklisted that one.
Oh no! I enjoyed torturing the can dancers and showing them how it was meant to be done. No, they got to show me how it was done. And then obviously, so giving young people those experiences beyond the classroom, I have got to see the value of that, and I've got to see the importance of that. And if I can give that to some of my students, then I know the positive experience that will have in their lives going forward. So it's really important that extracurricular aspect of school, that we're lucky that we can get to do that, and we can get to have that impact on young people's lives. And it's not just for the pupils on stage, as you know. There are lots of things going on behind the schools, going on behind the scenes. Ticket sales, the business studies department get involved selling ice cream. You've people advertising, art departments producing scenery and costumes. So there are lots of benefits to having a school show. It is like the iceberg effect. The people on stage are the tip, and everything going on underneath really helps to produce the entire performance, and everyone feels part of that it really builds a school community, because they really feel that everyone has achieved that. It's not just the lead roles getting the applause. That applause is for absolutely everyone that takes part in it.
And so many people talk about that last performance, and then the Monday of the week after, it feels so flat right across the whole of the school community.
Yeah, it's best just to take that one, give them the day off. It's the only way you could lift their spirits,
Well, there's another enterprise that you developed and is on pause at the minute. Back in 2013, you set up Gaudeamus as a choir. What was the inspiration behind that?
So we've talked about pupils getting and children in school getting to sing music at a high standard, and obviously not everyone goes on to study music, so there is that void. People miss it. I think it's a wee bit must be like a footballer stepping into retirement. We've been playing sport at this high level, and then all of a sudden it's gone. So Gaudeamus was set up to try and to give, so that people could continue on to sing, to meet up socially, and to experience singing together in a group. All of the things that you love about music and taking part in these musicals was happening within the choir. So we had a rehearsal and got people together, and then we put together our first Christmas performance, and after that just built upon that, and it's been really, really great. It's something that I have loved doing, getting to sing some beautiful music in some wonderful venues, like the Emmanuel Chapel on Edward Street. It really is like a gem in Newry that not too many people know about or get into performing. We were very lucky in the early stages of Gaudeamus to get in there. And then more recently, we're in St Peter's in Warrenpoint, and indeed in St Colmans College. It's a really special night. It's still one of my favourite places to perform or to sing, is in the chapel of St Colmans, because so many great memories standing there singing wonderful music, and it's great to go back there to do that all over again, and to relive that experience. But Gaudiamus has been brilliant, and whenever I think back of, Gaudiamus has actually been responsible for 2 marriages, although it's only 2013 set up. We have Joe Gallagher and Emer McShane actually sat down beside each other at a concert, and they're happily married. And then we have a tenor in the choir and an alto in the choir, Catherine and Aidan, who are going to be married as well. We have also got to perform as the opening of Charles Wood Summer School, and we performed for Martin Lordson in Restrevra Choral Festival as well. Martin Lordson is a Grammy Award-winning composer, so it was great to perform one of his pieces with him sitting in the front row. You never know how a composer is going to take it. It's really nerve-wracking because the choir are all standing there. The person who wrote the piece is sitting behind you. All of a sudden, you're thinking, he's probably there sitting going, what are these people doing with my beautiful work? But he indeed praised us for the performance, thankfully.
But and I think what the point you've made there is really important, that it's an opportunity for people to perform at a breadth and a depth right across the musical spectrum. So you have the musical society, you have Gaudiamus, you have the choirs. There's something for everyone, and there always is a danger when you look at, if you come back to the school shows and you look at all the performances in the school shows, where do people go from there? And I know, some people go away and don't live locally, but where is that opportunity for those people who have built up a passion to perform in the school choirs or in school shows? Where do they go to next?
Yeah, so every year we'd hold auditions around September time, and we would audition new members. Obviously, every year you would have people who may move to university or may change job, and would mean that they would have to move away. So we would hold auditions and then fill spaces of people who come up. We still want to keep the number quite small as well, because it's just a lot easier to manage. The sound's more intimate. People get to know each other that bit better as well. So it's easier to form a bond with the singers, and that comes across so much in the sound that's produced as well.
We actually did share the stage, not at the same time, but we were on the same stage in Scór competitions.
Everyone thinks whenever they hear GAA, it's football, camogie, hurling, but there's a whole other aspect within the GAA that's really promoting culture. And Down are really lucky that there's so many people that are involved in the promotion of dance, song, and recitation around the county, and so many people are willing to take part in this, and that just really keeps the cultural aspect alive. And as you said, there's an opportunity there for people who may not be talented on the football field, but can win an All-Ireland in dance, and an All-Ireland medal for recitation. And over the years, I've been fortunate enough to adjudicate in competitions right up to, like, the last competition I adjudicated was the All-Ireland Scoring and Oak in Castlebar.
Mm-hmm.
And the standard of everything, of dance, of recitation, of novelty act, it's just absolutely incredible to see.
And the medal you win at the All Ireland is the same value and same respect within the organisation as the medal you'll win for the hurling or for the football.
Yeah, and to be honest, that's right. That's only right, because the people who are there for the dance and the music, they're working every bit as hard as the Bernard Brogans of this world, So I think that medal should hold the same value, because they do have to put in the same amount of hours, the same amount of effort in order to get to that stage. And the competition in Castlebar that day was just incredible. The same way, whenever you go to a Down county final, like a Down, Scór and Oak, like there are so many people involved in Williams, the late William Smith, who got so many young people involved in Scór and Oak, with Paula McGee there as well, who's now on the national committee for Scór. It's great to see. And these people get young people performing to such a high standard, give them an outlet.
Director of Music at Clonard is a very impressive title. What does that involve?
But it involves looking after all of the music that happens in Clonard. So that can be from all the liturgical music throughout the year, for the big liturgical feasts like Christmas and Easter. Also, we have the Clonard Novena coming up, so it's looking after all of the music that happens there. The organists and cantors that provide music at the different liturgies throughout the week, and the choir. Then there's also the concerts, because Clonard, a lot of people would like to perform in Clonard because there's obviously a lot of history there. In Belfast, it's a very prominent church within Northern Ireland. So a lot of visiting choirs would like to come and perform there. And we have recently had people like Phil Coulter, Carl McGuckin, who performs there as well. So yeah, it's looking after all of that, all of the music that happens there.
And you've also got an outreach choir then within your within the Clonard area that you've developed over the years too.
So yeah, that's the maddest rehearsal that I've ever walked. The maddest first rehearsal I've ever walked into. I'd only started in Clonard. It was around 2016, and I'd only started there. And someone from the youth club came up and approached me and said, "On a Wednesday, we have a group of children from both sides of the interface, Catholic and Protestant children, who are in the youth club. Would you like to do anything with them?" And I thought, yeah, sure, I'll go down and set up a choir.
As you do.
And the youth clubs, the youth clubs at the bottom of the car park, and we all know that music brings people together, the power of music bringing people together. So I walked into these 60 young people, boys and girls, aged between 11 and 15. And it was absolute, the noise in the room was mad. Even to get their attention at the very start was tricky. But after a while, we started to sing together, and it's at the start it sounded a wee bit like a football terrace. And then after time, it became more refined. And one of them said, well, will we get the chance to sing anywhere? I said, yeah, sure, we'll sing at the carol service. The carol service in Clonard, it's a huge event.
Yeah.
Standing room, one of those standing room only. So there were over 1,000 people there. And obviously they had brought all of their supporters. So we went out, performed together, and it really was. It was a great experience. They really enjoyed it. They enjoyed it so much so that it's something that I've continued to do, and it's really there's no pressure in having to get a performance to a certain standard. It's all really, it is a bit of crack, and it's a way for them to get to know each other. I think that more important than the sound that they're producing is the relationships that they're building, is the understanding of each other's backgrounds and getting to learn a bit about each other's backgrounds. That's the key.
Yeah.
The performance is secondary. So really, in all of this, whenever we're putting it together, it's getting groups to sing together, getting groups to work together, and then getting this huge group of young people to perform together at Christmas.
Christmas is a really busy time for you then as director of music in Clonard. You've got Godemus with their Christmas carols, the Belfast choir as well. Do you find it difficult to fit into family life around Christmas time then?
Christmas is usually, yeah, Christmas is mad for any. If you're not busy at Christmas as a musician, you're not a musician. So Christmas is really really busy because you would have we've Gaudy Amos, and then I have school choir as well. So at school we usually like to mark Christmas as well
Yeah.
with something special there. Then after that, I'd go into we would Clonard. So Clonard Mass starts at 11:30 in on Christmas Eve. The child's placed in the manger at midnight. So there are a few carols and things that lead up to that. It's a beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
beautiful liturgy, and then so that might go on until after 1 in the morning. So I would maybe get out at around 1:30, and then get in the car and come up the road to Warm Point, and then I'd have to see Santa the next morning
Yeah, indeed.
for a brief period of time. So I would be up early to see Santa, and then what we would do is myself, Gemma, and the two girls would then head down to Christmas Mass, Sunday morning Mass, where all the singers would come back again and sing again for Christmas morning. But people say about it being crazy busy, and you're always running, and it does feel like that at the time, and you have an awful lot to do. Within school you might have reports and carol services, and then at home you've got everyone's busy at Christmas. But see, not having it this year, not having that busyness, not having that, it really, for me, it didn't feel like Christmas in the same way. We were very lucky in Clonard that we got to have Christmas Mass online. So I got to have the full choir in the church, and it was the first time in a while that we got to do that, because Christmas in Clonard are people coming back from all over, back to Belfast, and within Belfast, there are people who have moved away from Clonard, but Clonard is still their spiritual home. So they will always come back for Mass at Christmas, and there can be over 1,000 people at Mass in Clonard at Christmas. So that they decided very early on that Christmas Masses were going to be online. Same way as Good Friday is usually a huge day in Clonard, and there were over 3,000 people that had tuned in on the webcam. So it was great to get to. I did feel that whenever we were there, getting to sing Christmas music, it did feel like Christmas.
I mean, did looking back on that last 14 months of lockdown, it was a challenge for so many people. As I've said all the time, it's been a challenge for so many people on really human basic issues, of life and friends and family being terribly affected by it. But for the musical community and yourself with the choirs and the church choirs, I mean, you've said it, there was a sort of emptiness there.
Like, if you think about it, there are people in Clonard Choir who have sang, who've sang for uh, every Sunday of their lives, apart from maybe if they went away for a 2-week holiday or during the summer term. But apart from that, they've sang there every week, and that takes a lot of commitment and a lot of dedication, and they may have missed family events or weekends away because they were singing on a Sunday morning. And to go from that to having completely nothing, like they've built up friendships within the congregation and with each other, and to not have that outlet, I just think it's very very difficult, for people. And you just hope that with vaccines and things like that going forward, that you can start to see that there is maybe a way out of this. And I would hope that by the time that the Christmas comes, that we would all be back singing together again as a choir, and that you're able to have these performances. Yesterday, I was lucky enough that I got to do another recording for a concert that's going to be online at the end of June, and just to be in the room to hear live music happening again, it is incredible. I feel very fortunate that every Sunday I get to go down to Clonard with a reduced number of singers, and I still get to hear live music. I still get the opportunity to perform. But whenever that wasn't there, I really did miss it. And these things you can take for granted, like so much during this pandemic. We took for granted calling up to see your mum and dad and things like that that you wouldn't think twice about.
Yeah.
And these rehearsals, and maybe going in thinking, oh, tonight I have to go through X, Y, and Z, and have to fix this and have to fix that, and then to not have that, or to not be going into a rehearsal, not to have a rehearsal to complain about. Yeah. That's been difficult. And so hopefully that whenever we can see a way out of this, because making music together, it's so important for the community. We hear about well-being, you see it in school, the difference of getting to sing in a school choir. Like tomorrow, we have the Deputy First Minister coming into school for a project that we did online recently, where the girls sang Dreams, and we used the track then to highlight a social issue. So it's violence against women and girls. We did it in association with Women's Aid, and like that video got over 10.5 thousand views. We put it up last week, and it's got 10,500 views already, which is great, because our students can now see that using their talents, whatever they are, if it's art, if it's dance, that it can make a positive difference. We can make a positive difference, and getting to perform together is so important, because it's so much more than just having friends around you or developing these relationships. It is a power of good, and it has the ability to do so much, to make such a change in not just the person themselves, the people around, but in the community as well, and in society, and indeed in a school, the difference that music makes, and being able to make music. I've been teaching for well, longer than I would like to say. I'm just waiting on a girl to come into class someday and say, "You taught my mum." I haven't had that yet, but I know that it's not too far around the corner. But this year, I haven't been able to make music in the same way, and we have been making music online, and it's just not the same. You just don't get to enjoy it as much as you would whenever they're beside you, they're in the room with you.
Well, Cathal, your passion for music comes across so strongly, and those people that you're inspiring in music are so lucky to have you leading them, both in the school and in Clonard and in all the choirs that you look after. And I suppose we can look back fondly to those days of that recorder class, whether it was in tune or not, and Mrs. Rafferty and Mr. Morgan inspiring you to begin your musical journey.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like I've been very fortunate that I've been inspired by so many people along my musical journey, both in school and out of school. In St Colmans, we talked about Sinead Frame. I had Siobhan O'Dwine in first year. I also had a colleague of yours from the BBC, Andrea Red, at a point whenever I was in St Colmans as well. So and then when I think about university, Dave Morris and Sean Ryan, and these people had a great impact on my life, and have added a great deal to it. And if I can do that to someone else's life in just a small way, then I think I'm doing the job okay if I can do that.